So after I got diagnosed, the doctor came back to me and said, well, you just hit the lottery. In fact, you could probably win the lottery 2 times in a row before you get another diagnosis of thymic carcinoma. So that's how rare this is, my odds of getting this is 1 out of every 3.2 million people in America today. So, which leads only to about 80 to 100 people a year will be diagnosed in the United States with my cancer. And in fact, when you look at it, we're almost like the unicorns of all cancer. Well, trying to find a doctor is almost impossible. We asked the doctor, well, have you ever worked with thymic carcinoma? And they said, no. In fact, I don't think you'll find anybody here in Kansas City that had thymic carcinoma. So we called almost every oncologist in Kansas City, and none of them had worked with our cancer. Could you imagine being in a small community in a rural area that you have maybe 3 or 4 oncologists that not even worked with it? And in fact, when you talk to most oncologists, they could go through their entire career and never have treated one thymic carcinoma patient. Now that's 40, 50 years of patients. After I had my biopsy, they gave me basically 2 weeks to get it out or it would spread everywhere. In that 2 weeks, we contacted every oncologist, every professional that we knew. And finally, after much conversation with a lot of doctors, we had to look elsewhere. And that part was we had to go to a major institution, which is either like MD Anderson or Mayo. But when we first contacted MD Anderson, they didn't believe me that I had thymic carcinoma. So we sent all of our stuff up to Mayo, and that's where we actually found somebody that had worked with thymic carcinoma. And that's the problem with people that get diagnosed with our cancer. They have to go to a major institution just to find out how to get treated by our cancer and what are the options. They came back and told me that my life expectancy was only going to be 12 to 15 months. And that was without any treatment. And with treatment, there was still a possibility that my lifespan would not be over 5 years. So that really is the hard thing about a patient, is hearing the whole idea that you have such a short time and you feel hopeless about life and about what to do. I got diagnosed. I had biopsy. And out of that biopsy, I had to have surgery. After surgery, after 10 weeks of recuperation, I had 28 radiation treatments. And then right after my radiation, I ended up having 4 chemo treatments, which was with PAC, which is one of the most difficult treatment programs for cancer out there today. After my chemo, my radiation, and my surgery, about a year later, it came back. And they went in to try to operate. It was inoperable. And so the doctor basically came out and said, look, you got 2 choices. One is try chemo again that didn't work, or you can try a new trial. And at the time, there were only 2 trials, one in Indianapolis for another chemo base, and this other one was in Washington, D.C. with this new type of treatment called immunotherapy, which my daughter kept pushing me to go to the immunotherapy because it's less hard on your body. So I was actually in that trial for 2 years, every 3 weeks having to travel to Washington, D.C. on my own dime. And, it literally broke my wife and I financially. We used all of our savings, we used all of our 401 just to be able to go to this treatment in Washington, D.C. for the immunotherapy. Now, in the long run, it was a good investment because it saved my life. After my diagnosis, we had a huge void of hopelessness as it related to where to go, what to do, how to get treated. And that's the one thing that, as a family, our entire family felt hopeless. And so when I went through the trial, that's where hope really started. Because that's where I met other patients that are going through the same thing that I'm going through. And with that, there was originally 4 of us that met on the same day. Even 6 months after I was in a trial was the time that it was actually that we all found each other. And we talked about the important things, which is how do we support each other? What can we communicate with each other to provide that positivity and the support that you needed to go through this journey? One thing that everybody was on was Facebook. So we put the Facebook group together with the 4 of us so that we can communicate all the side effects of immunotherapy, provide each other support and encouragement to keep fighting. And shortly after that, it just started growing because more and more people found out that was in the trial about our group. And so 4 became 8 and 8 became 12. And pretty soon, as a group, we found that the positivity from each other and the support from each other was a lot of help through the whole journey. The other thing that we found out is that there's just no information out there. When you go out and look on the internet, everything is very medically termed based type stuff, and who can understand all that? So what we wanted to do is to put together, the co-founder Shannon Semple and I wanted to put together a website that provided a positive approach to our cancer with information that is more up to date and positive. Based upon all the literature and all the data, there is no hope for people like us. What we're trying to do with thymic carcinoma is to provide that hope, to provide the resources, to provide the information and technology to be able to go and get the right treatments. And not only get the right treatments, but then how do you care for that cancer as time goes on? And that is where we established the 3 programs. Being able to provide information, education, and then the cancer wellness piece, which is mind, body, and spirit. Being able to be positive, to eat right, to exercise. And then the third piece is the positivity. That's where hope begins. But we realized that people are going through a very difficult time with cancer and that people needed help and resources. And that's not just educational resources, but financial resources. To be able to travel outside their area, in the long run, we wanted to start a foundation to help people because there was nothing out there. And so we wanted to be able to provide that avenue, that road for people to be able to do that. So even the start of our foundation was actually seeded by a caregiver of a patient that, I didn't have the money, or anybody that is going through cancer to have the money to be able to start this foundation. And so with the great treasure that this person gave us, that we were able to start the foundation a year ago in 2021 and have grown that foundation from scratch. So all of our focus has been on the patient, but then we quickly realized that it's not just only the patient. The only way that we're going to find better treatments is that we're going to have to invest into some kind of biomedical research. And with that, we put together a part of the fund that we're now funding a biomedical research grant at Cornell University. We just funded a $240,000 grant to study how we can develop more cell lines for the development of better treatments, more efficacy type treatments into our cancer. Thymic Carcinoma Center isn't about a person, and it's not about me or Shannon or anybody. It's really about the patient. Thymic Carcinoma Center is here to help those patients and those advocates get through their journey to live the best life that they can while they're doing that, and to live life, because that's all we have is life.